All right. Well, thank you. Welcome. So as Juan said, today is our Dido's BigQuery in a Box presentation. Really what Dido's BigQuery in a Box is it is your accelerator. It's your easy button for using BigQuery. As a teaser, all of the people that stay to the end of this presentation will be eligible for a $500 credit and some engineering help. No strings attached to it at all whatsoever. Very easy, no high pressure sales afterwards. But we want to show people that are potentially interested in BigQuery just how easy they can accelerate it. And if you've not used BigQuery, $500 can do a lot of work. And it's good for 2 months, I think. So please do consider staying to the end and doing that. Other than that, I will go ahead and jump into the demo. So what we've got here, what is the problem with BigQuery? Well, the first problem that you really get, the one that we solve with Dido's BigQuery in a Box, is that users are really interested in it, but they don't know how to get started. And it's pretty complex. GCP has a ton of services. There's a lot of security around it, and people just don't know if they can safely use it. They may not know how much it costs. They might have to put a purchase order in for it, get their boss's approval. That's what we solve here. So Dido's inaBOX solution is about building turnkey solutions that end pain points like this for our customers, largely built on Google Solutions. So the question that Rich Fultak asked was, what if a user could just upload data into BigQuery? They could do it without any time spent deploying things, securing things, and they knew that they could do it safely. And then they could also get engineering help and figure out how to do things and, build a collaboration platform. So what Dido's BigQuery in a Box does is it gives you that secure solution really available in just a few minutes, and it gets you started. And I love this direct quote. This is a Google Cloud Solutions architect. And that's not just somebody with that certification. This is a Googler who's a cloud solutions architect who sets these things up. And what we find is a lot of companies that go to deploy analytics solutions like BigQuery in a Box will spend a quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters dealing with all of the things that inaBOX solves. And even for Google, this solves 1 to 2 weeks of their foundational work, just getting them all set up and working. And in general, if you're familiar with the Google ecosystem, Google has training programs called Quick Labs. I refer to BigQuery in a Box as a Quick Labs plus plus. That's a homage to C programming. If you're familiar, the plus plus is the increment command. So C plus plus is an increment to the C programming language. This is sort of the increment to a Quick Labs. Now, Quick Labs are still very useful. They're Google self-paced and Quest-based learning experience solutions. But the thing with Quick Labs that's important to point out is they're never suitable for your sensitive data. And so you can't put real things up on it. So what we did with it is we expanded on it. We provide that secure, dedicated, and a managed system where you can safely experiment with tools like BigQuery. We also have at the end of it in our resources list some of the Quick Labs that you might be interested in doing. If you're not familiar with BigQuery and you're interested in what we're doing here, you can go ahead and learn more about it. So the portal, we're going to show it a little bit here, but basically this is where it gives you the customer and the sales landing page. It's powered, as I often joke, by endangered animals and whatnot being ground up. It's got Python and JavaScript and Terraform and Firebase and whatnot. And what it does is it deploys as a kind of an infrastructure as a code, but a lot more than that to give you that secure managed deployment. And it's suitable for things like healthcare environments. We've built it based on 27001 as well as ISO 853 type standards. So it can easily be used and leveraged into a secure platform. If that's something your company does as well, we can help support that as well. But it gives you at the basis, your basic IAM, your user management, the ability to add and remove people. It gives you your billing spend. So you have an idea how much of your money you're spending. It can give you alerts if you're spending too much as well. And it also gives you a single pane of glass with the access to your audit logs as well. What's going on with your data, who's accessing it as well. But clearly the big specialty with it is really trying to manage your data and helping you upload and ingest and store that data. It's powered by things like PubSub, which we'll show as well to automate the ingestion of data and whatnot. But it has other things. We are a security-minded company. Security is built in, not bolted on. Though for the older people on the call, I always make this joke, but it makes me laugh. I told the artist, I was like, I want Natasha, holding a bomb from like Natasha and Boris. And the artist was like, who is Natasha? So for those of you who know the Rocky and Bullwinkle show, you will now know why I always call this person on this graph or on this slide. That is Natasha. So to me, she's always Natasha. But What it represents is our self-destruct mode. So we have a proof of concept mode. If you've ever worked with anything and you're worried that the data is just going to live out there, you're going to get a warning in 30 days that the data is going to self-destruct. So it helps make sure that your data is just not floating out there on the internet or the cloud, and you're worried about it. So it's one of the things we can do. And one of the other things we can do is really enable other services as well. Our goal is to bring one-click buttons so you can use the tools that analysts use every day. So, tie in things like Jupyter Notebooks or tie in Data Studios or Vertex AI and do so very quickly. All of this is based as a single tenant Alcatraz model. There's no ability that any project, in fact, or any customer has any semblance of data sharing in any way, shape, or form. I also mentioned it's built on top of standards. You know, we're aware of these standards and built these things. It has a very good secure model behind it. And from a cost standpoint, our goal here is not really to make a ton of money. It's built on a percentage of what your BigQuery spend is, but we will transfer it to you at you or Google's request. So it can go onto your paper as well. You lose the benefit of that managed secure solution, but this is not a vendor lock-in play. The goal here is to provide customers a good play, show you how Google can work, and as our CISO says, we want to sell you fishing rods. We want to teach you how to fish. So other than that, we will jump into a live demo. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and share a different tab. So give me 1 second here. Go ahead and share this. Gotta get to the right place. All right. So the next thing that we want to go through is really just the website. So, Enrich GCP, it's your standard website. Goes into a little bit about our products, especially focused on BigQuery inaBOX. But the thing here that we want to do is we want to go ahead and what I'll do is I'll log in, and after we log in, we'll see a different environment where it will more focus on BigQuery inaBOX. Today, what we're going to focus on is the load and archive and the analyze and view sections. And it's pretty simple. Basically, you can go up to the create a project. And when I talk about being able to create a project very easily, this is all that's needed. So, for example, I can go ahead and, put somebody's name in here. So I could put, Juan, Feb, and, I can type a, Feb short as the name of it. I can decide, as we talked about that proof of concept, whether or not it's a proof of concept or an MSP. Has to do with whether or not. So I've talked a lot about quick labs. I've talked a lot about how you can safely experiment with this. BigQuery inaBOX, completely viable for your production uses as well. There's nothing, it's designed from both scenarios. So you could decide that this is not a proof of concept. This is a full production system. And the main differences between a development and a production environment here is the development environment lets you be able to give access to Dido's engineers to be able to get into the system. If it's production, we don't even have the ability to get into it in any way, shape, or form. So other than that, I do have to name an owner. So I'm going to go ahead and name myself. And, as I mentioned with the IAM, I don't even have access to it unless I give myself access to it. So I'm going to go ahead and give myself access. And then we do support labels for it. So, you can mark it as public data. So I'll just go ahead and mark this one as internal. I'm going to hit submit. What's going to happen, this is normally when those endangered animals are sacrificed, unicorn horns are ground up into pixie dust, etc., to make all the magic that happens occur. That takes about 5 to 10 minutes. You can see that over here on the My Projects. You can see that, Enrich Feb Short is being spun up. But I have gone ahead and created one ahead of time so they won't have to wait. It takes about 5 minutes, not too long. But we can go ahead and click into this one here that I've created today. What you'll see here, pretty simply, it's spinning up the boxes and whatnot that it needs in the background. So it takes a few seconds. We haven't spent any money. So the budget alert over here, we're still at $0. We have Data Studio enabled by default, and you can see some of the other single clicks that we support as well. Over here, you have some various project overviews. We'll talk about the upload bucket and the internal bucket in a minute. You can see who has access to it. So for example, I can go ahead and give somebody else, like if I can learn to type in the right place, I could give Tammy access, for example. And in real time right now, it is going out and adding her to the various places that she needs access to access the BigQuery roles. You can see that she's popped up automatically there, and I can go ahead and revoke her access in real time. Additionally, down here, you do have the access log. you can see that most of these, whoops, I didn't click the yes revoke access, I apologize. You can see some of the access logs that's going on, and no data has been accessed yet. So nothing there, but you can see a quick overview. One pane of glass, you have an idea of what your billing spend is, who has access to this particular project, as well as the ability to add people to a project, and you have your access logs. Now, the buckets up here, this is a lot of the what we call the management of your data. So a lot of people want to upload some data into BigQuery. They want to start playing with it. This is the way you can do it very, very quickly. We're going to go to the upload bucket. What we're going to do here, and I don't know if we've jumped to another website and I'm not sharing it. So give me a second. I am, what do you call it? Need to share another tab. And what you should see now, so this is the upload bucket. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and click upload file here. I've got a unique OCIDs that I have created, just a simple CSV file, nothing fancy. But what's going to happen is that file is going to go ahead and upload. You're going to see it here. And over the next few seconds, not very long, typically takes about maybe 10 seconds, a pub sub queue is going to be kicked off that will basically alert the backend system and the engines that are running that, hey, there's a file to go ahead and analyze. It will look at the schema. It will go ahead and import it into BigQuery. And if it works all correctly, we should see it disappear. And it didn't disappear forever. What actually occurred is if we go back to the other tab, we will see that it has gone to an archive bucket. I won't bother going into that archive bucket too much, but I just will show you the other page. Just got to hit the right share buttons. And so what we have here is it has gone into that internal archive bucket. So it's been processed, it's been imported. Now you're able to do things with it. I can also go back to that upload bucket and whatnot. And I won't go into too much of what you can do with BigQuery because we have an absolute wizard on this presentation with me. Edward Mitchell is one of our data analysts, and just, you know, truly amazing. I think you guys will see that. I need to share the right screen with you, however. And I should just share my whole screen, but you know, that will probably end up with somebody chatting me in the middle of the call. So over here, I can see my upload bucket and whatnot. What I meant to show, however, is I wanted to show the internal bucket. So I will share the correct screen and show the internal bucket, which is here. I think I got the right slide. Yep. So here's my upload bucket. So you can see February 17th, which is today. You can see the unique OCIDs that has been uploaded. So at this point now, you've got a BigQuery instance set up. You've got the ability to upload data quite easily. You've got a secure model that you can experiment with. And as part of one of the demos that we'll show you today with some real live demo, data, excuse me, you'll see how the proof of concept mode literally lets you do very, very safe things that you would not feel comfortable doing in any other way, shape, or form. So that does end that data. But, you know, when we talk to people about data analytics and we talk to people about the power of Google and what Dido can do, I love having this short introduction. And, you know, if there's something you learned today about data analytics, this is one that surprises a lot of people that I talk to. But, you know, it's based on a guy named Dave Robinson's publications, and I love it. But, you know, data analytics or science, you know, really just is about producing insights. And it's anytime an engineer or scientist sits down and you know, analyzes data, and they can do that manually, be on graph paper, it can be you know, automatically with Google Sheets, doesn't matter. It's just analyzing data and coming up with you know, some insights from that, perhaps producing a hypothesis. What a lot of people want to do with that data is they want to try and bring it into the 21st century. They want to try and use more machine learning. They want to try and use artificial intelligence. But what I like to do is make sure that people understand what those are. What is machine learning? What is artificial intelligence? And so we talked about data analytics. The next step up is machine learning. And that's where you use those insights produced by the data analysis to produce predictions. Finally, artificial intelligence is when you use those data models built on the analysis to then do automated actions. So a key example I give a lot of times is to discuss anti-spam. Many people have been using email for decades. Anti-spam keeps their email cluttered, their inboxes uncluttered. The way it does that, scientists have sat down and looked at good email. They looked at bad email. They have produced insights about what is likely to be bad, what is likely to be good, and they produce a machine learning model built on those insights. There's a lot more to it than that, but at the end of the day, a new email comes in, it's compared against those machine learning models, and it says, okay, this is junk or this is okay mail. At that point, that's the end of what machine learning does. Artificial intelligence uses machine learning models and those predictions made to then decide what to do. And that's what most people miss. They think they mix up artificial intelligence and machine learning a lot. So anyway, little sideline on something that I think is very important when you're dealing with BigQuery. But the key point is it's really ideal for many users. So anybody trying to do large scale analytics powered by BigQuery, Google's really strong at things what we call Google scale or planet scale databases. You can do things with literally petabytes of data in just sub-milliseconds. We'll see some of that with them. But additionally, if you've been interested in BigQuery, but you're just kind of, let's say, scared, but you don't want to dive in, you don't have to learn all this stuff. You don't want to have to figure out if you've secured all the back end things, have you done all the toggles correctly, et cetera, to safely upload some data, or will it end up out on YouTube because you uploaded it there? This is the type of solution that can fix this. If you're in a regulated industry, again, like healthcare, it can do it. If you're an engineer that is familiar with this, as I showed you, this 1 to 2 weeks of foundational time can be saved with this, even inside of Google. And finally, if you're interested in just the $500 credit and some free consulting, it's a great use for you. So today, what we've done is we have prepared 2 live demos. So over the next 40 minutes, we will go through those 2 demos. But the key thing here is, we have some quotes here that I'm looking for. Sorry, trying to find my right notes and my thing where I'm at. We want to talk about what data you have. How could this extrapolate? What questions could you answer with tools like BigQuery? And our partners can also help with some interesting things. Like, for example, a partner that I'm working with now has a product called Cosmos. It helps you find out what could you answer from your data. So if you don't know what questions to ask, it can help you have those insights of, oh, this is what your data might be able to surface, something that a lot of people doing analytics would be very interested in. And Dido can help you brainstorm about that, how to get answers out of your data, how to use these tools. But there's a video or a picture here that I love. And what this demo is going to do is it's going to work with a public data set, a free little library. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen so Edward can go ahead and get ready. But am I stopped presenting? There we go. What's going to happen here? We're going to use a public data set of little free libraries. You can see the picture that was on my slide was a picture of my son with my little free library that was in my front yard, as well as a picture of Tux. So we're going to, demo number 1, we're going to deal with public data sets. Demo number 2, we're going to deal with data that could be ingested into a SIM. And that, I think, is something that would be very interesting and have a lot of extrapolated use cases. So he's going to take those little free libraries database, he's going to combine it with a database of bus stops, and then we're going to visualize the data. And what's really important to me is that, when we sat down and did this is a visualization and a process that we brainstormed and did in just a few minutes. I think it took us about 10 minutes to get the basic framework of it. We've spent a lot more time, making the presentation around it, but we purposely limited the amount of time that we spent on like what visualization we did or how we present it better, because we wanted to show you the power of what can be done in just a few minutes with BigQuery. So Edward, I will go ahead and hand it over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Cam. Well, we both had a big fascination with little libraries, and we just really wanted to do something big with that. And we thought, they're just spread around geographically, and why not map these out? Well, so here, Cam's already showed us how to use this, but I'm going to show you my favorite button, which is Access BigQuery. So I'm a data analyst primarily, so I don't really like messing around with IAM and don't want to spend a lot of time doing data engineering. I want to get to my insights as fast as possible and see, is there something to our data that we can actually analyze? And so one of the ways we can do that is, sure, we have to get our own data in, but BigQuery actually gives you so much access to public data. And so particularly some public map data, what we're going to be using here is OpenStreetMaps. And so here I have BigQuery public data pinned right here. We've got free access to it. It's the processing that is actually going to be the cost. So don't select star everything from Wikipedia. You will get charged for that. But
the charges aren't much, so don't be scared. And again, you have a $500 budget, so you can see here. Normally, charges for queries are micro transactions or sub pennies. We're not it, but it adds up, and whatnot. So
exactly. Well, and then the comparison is if you're using on-premise SQL Server, you're going to be waiting 2 days and paying your analyst to wait there 2 days versus getting things back in seconds. Yeah. So I'm going to unpin this BigQuery public data. And if I type in public in here, run search to all projects. So it brings up, we've got a lot of public data available. And I'm going to just repin that project. And then if I type in OpenStreet, all right, so here we've got, it pulls up the same data set, and we've got this geo OpenStreetMap. And here we can see it's got a lot of tables, lots of different data. It's very easy to open up a table, sort of see its schema. You get a free preview to sort of get an idea. Yes, we've got longitude and latitude. This is point data. So we know these are points. So this would be the right place where you'd expect to find bus stops or other point data like these little libraries. So let's start out by looking at something pretty easy. Here I am looking at these planet nodes. And so this is something exciting. BigQuery actually allows you to have arrays in your data. So we've got one ID, and then we've got an array here. These gray areas are showing that these are not different rows. This is one row, but we've got an array in it. But it's not a NoSQL database. If your SQL analyst can still write SQL against this. You also have JSON data, and there is some JSON abilities as well. Don't have time for that on this demo. But let's see here. Let's look. We can very quickly analyze the kind of data. We see that we've got a bus stop position. So let's go visualize this. So you can hear a pretty basic query. And here, this is something you'd expect to see in a fancy GIS system. But we have geo functions in BigQuery. And so this is San Francisco. So we're going to be looking at the Bay Area, not all the way down to Google headquarters for this query. We're just going to be looking at 50 kilometers as far as the radius. And when we run this, it only took 3.5 seconds to run a geoquery. And this is across 21 gigabytes of data, and it's a geoquery.
And I know we've talked about it before, Edward, but how long would that take on, like an on-premise server? So I was running that, you talked about saving your analyst time.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're running this, against one machine, you could, this could take about, 23 minutes. This is massively parallel. I would expect it to actually take a little longer than that on-prem, because you can really speed up geo functions by parallelization. But just if you have a little bug in your code, you're getting your data right, an analyst has to rewrite these queries a couple times. And if they're waiting 23 minutes each time, that's a lot of lost time.
I mean, not you. You do them right every time, right?
Yeah, perfect. 100%. And here we go. So let's see the results. So if I want to explore the data, I've got 3 options. I've got sheets, for people who are more used to Excel type of sheets information. And we've got Data Studio for creating dashboards we can share. But this one I'm going to show something that most people don't know about, which is GeoViz. This is really great for geo data. and that will pop open. And I've got it already run. This runs quite quickly, showing 12,000 results. This one is running on your browser, so it is dependent on how much memory you have. But you can just see how fast it is. I can zoom in down into the street level.
So this is all the bus stops in San Francisco, right?
These are the bus stops in San Francisco. I am seeing bus stops on both sides of the road. And you can zoom out and really see, sort of the whole Bay Area of where the bus stops are.
Yeah. And Edward is not using a particularly fancy laptop or anything like that. This is, standard commercial off the shelf, pretty medium to high end, I would say, rig. He's not running anything with like 20 cores and, 75 gigs of RAM or anything like that. So you can do a lot with just a standard laptop.
Yeah, and this is great for showing point data, but we're looking at geometries. So there's a couple of geometries that you can show. So you don't need to export your stuff into ArcGIS or something like that. But let's look at another way we can visualize our data, and then let's look at something that's a little more analytic, more business oriented. So we thought about where do you want your bookcases? So little libraries, I often see them in playgrounds. I bring my kids to the playgrounds. They exchange their books. And but me, if I'm riding my bus in San Francisco, it might be nice to have some sort of thriller to read on the bus. And then when I get off the bus, I want to change it. So what we're doing is we're looking at bus stops, and seeing is there a little library nearby. And you might do this. So many businesses. You got a CVS right next to a Walgreens. I used to work pricing for gas stations. Right, you always want to sort of match your competitors' prices, so you could map the prices of all your competitors. And so, what's really cool about this is we're joining all of this data together. We've got our bookcases, and we are joining that with all of our bus stops, and this is this huge cross join. But we're just seeing only the ones that are within 10,000 kilometers together. And this one ended up running in 6.4 seconds.
And again, how much time did that take on the slot if you were on an on-premise?
Yeah, that ended up taking an hour and a half of slot time. And when I've run it again, this time it's 0 seconds. It was cached.
Yeah. And when BigQuery charges you, and when you run queries that actually hit the time, so cache queries, there's no charge as well, and you're charged basically by the query time effectively.
So yeah, very true. And so now that we've got this great data, let's go ahead and analyze it. We can bring it into a data studio now. So this is for dashboarding. And you can see it comes in, sort of tabular data. But you can very quickly bring it into a map, and I will show you what happens when you bring it in a map. And what I've done here is I've just set sort of the parameters for how we're drawing these circles here. And so what this is it's the minimum distance to a bookcase. And this is actually London that we're centered around. And in London, they have really cool bookcases. Those old red telephone booths. No one uses this anymore. Everyone has cell phones. So instead, they're filling them up with books. And so we want to figure out where can we put these. So what I've done is I've made the size of these circles the minimum distance to a bookcase, and I've made the color the minimum distance to the bookcase. So these small circles here are showing that it's quite close to a bookcase.
Yeah, there's a lot of real world uses for this. For example, if you were opening physical locations and wanted to find out how close a competitor was at, if you wanted to know how far you were from a distribution center, how far a customer was from a drop off to US Postal Service, to find out whether or not you want to make a deal with UPS. There's so many things you can do with simple GeoViz data, but this makes it so extraordinarily simple. And we literally spent less than 10 minutes on this. We could have refined it. We could have done it better and made it look a little prettier. But the goal here was we got the insight. So anyway.
Yeah, and here we go. We can zoom in very fine-grained detail, seeing that this is 200 meters away, a walkable distance, but then we can zoom out and sort of see London as a whole. And we're seeing these white areas are places that are serviced by these bookcases, but then you see these darker areas. These are places that clearly we have a lot of bus stops that aren't served by a bookcase. So, you could find some sort of intersection here and decide that's a good place to put a bookcase to, or, maybe you want to put in a vending machine for these folks.
Excellent. All right. Thank you. So that's demo number 1. Anybody have any questions for Edward, or any challenges? You want to see him do something different with the visualization, or change the query, or show a different distance? You can see actually how quick it works in real time. All right, Edward, you're safe this time. Nobody's going to challenge you to try and see if you can write SQL with no errors.
Okay.
All right, let's go on to the demo number 2. So for the demo number 2, we would normally go ahead and stop recording here, but we have gotten permission from it. So the demo number 2 is going to show data from a real Linux mail server for an email security firm. This is real data from real customers. It shows how much faith we have in the safety and security of the model that we've built as well. And the company has seen it as well. Part of the reason we wouldn't record it, however, is there might be not safe for work things. We have run through it. We don't see anything that's horrible, but we do apologize in advance. We are looking at real data, real security data from real servers. And what we've done is we've created a CSV from the mail logs. We've looked at 3 categories that are tagged in their data: mail in, mail out, and spam. And from that, we've gone ahead and gotten the IP address, the sender, and the recipient. And we're going to combine that with another database that's available publicly. This one we did have to download and upload and ingest, I believe, correct? It isn't just default in BigQuery, correct, Edward?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to show, it's not default. MaxMine is a public, it's available in the public data set, but you can also upload it to get the latest results.
Exactly. So we're going to be using that, and we're going to go ahead and visualize the data. We're going to do some quick things. We're going to show you, we basically said some top 10. So think about this: if you maybe had a SIM with tons of data and logs in it, and you wanted to start doing some top 10 queries against it, that's the kind of visualization that Dytos BigQuery inaBOX can bring with real business value. And again, do it with no pain to deploy it. Stand it up in 5 minutes and start working with it. So Edward, if you want to go ahead and take it away again.
Yeah, excellent. So we're back, just making sure you understand this is a separate project. This is a demo 2. And so, we're starting at square one here with, we're going to access BigQuery with my favorite button here. And what I really like about this is, you might have, more than one of these BigQuery inaBOXes, but when you click that button, it's bringing you to the correct project.
The plural is box I, by the way. So.
So I'm not seeing the first demo here. I'm seeing the second demo here, and I've got my public data set pinned here. So let's look at some queries that we've written and some tables that we've uploaded. So Cam has showed you how we can upload data from CSVs. That's not the only way to get data. So let's say that you're using Google Sheets, or you have data in Google Drive. And so this is actually connected to a CSV in Drive. And so we don't see, it's a little bit different. We don't see that preview. And when we query it, it's a little bit different. So this is actually, it links you back to Google Drive. But what's nice about this is if someone wants to update something in Google Drive, you have sort of an easy, simple workflow.
Yeah, there are also some performance hits to it. I think it's about 18 times slower to hit it. But, again, we're talking about 18 times 0.1 seconds. So, you might wait a few extra seconds for it. It's still very, very, very fast, but it's great. So like, for example, if you have things like, logs that you want to upload and use rclone to automatically sync them daily. You can automatically bring them into this environment, have them come out to a data studio, and then basically use that as an automated report. So every Friday you could produce this report and have it automated. Things like that are great. Plus, not to mention the fact, if you wanted to do this in tools like Excel or Sheets, just 60 days of one server from this company is more than you can load in a typical sheet. So if you wanted to do 5 years and their entire cluster of servers, the only thing you could do that simply in is BigQuery. I don't talk about it a lot, but for example, I did some analysis of some SEC for security trading after 9/11 to try and identify people who shorted airlines that might have been bad actors. And that took us literally months to do it. And with this BigQuery inaBOX, I pretty much could do it probably in a day. I'll say a week, but it took multiple people, multiple months to come up to do it. And we had to come up with concepts of how we would run the analysis and then how we would combine the analysis, because we had to do it in small chunks anyway. Back to you, Edward. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what I love about this. You're really abstracting off the data engineer, the security analyst. Sort of comes with the product, so your analyst can get started. So yeah, what Cam was saying, it takes a little longer if you're pulling from Drive. The benefit is you can edit things in Drive if that works better with your workflow. So what we're going to use, this one's actually uploaded into BigQuery. We can preview it, so we get that instant preview of the data. And so, without further ado, let's look at what we can do with this data. Why were we using Geocode Lite?
So you mean MaxMind Lite?
Yeah, from
MaxMind's Geocode.
Yeah, that's MaxMind's product.
Yeah.
And so we went to Geocode. Turns out BigQuery has plenty of great geocoding our IP functions. So these net functions we're able to deal with CIDR masks, converting things into CIDR ranges so that we can run queries and then join them to something like this data set that geocodes all of your IP addresses or your CIDR blocks. And so what we've done is we've gotten, so we've looked at our spam. This is spam, and which countries are they coming from? And so this mail server is in the United States. You can see most of the spam is actually coming locally. And so you can look at this data, but if you're giving a presentation, analysts always like to have a little flash to catch attention. So let's go ahead and do that. So again, you go to Explore Data. And you can go to Data Studio, and you could go back to Sheets. So now that you've actually sort of pulled the data together, it will fit in Sheets. And so here we go. This is spam by country. And actually, I really like to sort of do that live if we're pulling it into Data Studio. It's just so fast. And so, we can zoom in and very quickly see that we've got the United States, we've got China's got a big circle, Russia, I know a lot of you would probably expect that to be a little bigger, but, the data is the data.
One of the stories I do like about this is that it based on the geographic center of these masses, and the person who's at the geographic center of the United States has unfortunately had protesters and sheriffs and bounty hunters show up a whole bunch of times because anytime something doesn't get geocoded properly in like a legal database or whatnot, it just shows up as the center of the United States. So bounty hunters show up and arrest the people that are at the house at the center of the United States. So just kind of an interesting.
Horrible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they've got a nice estate there. So
it's funny because we're not them. So,
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, be very careful how you present your data, please.
Yeah. So in this, we were able to, what's the top 10 countries that are sending you spam? We could very quickly do this. What's the top 10 IP addresses, top 10 CIDR ranges? We could look at who's the #1 senders of mail. We can very quickly bring that into Visual Studios and or excuse me, Data Studio, and visualize it, and get an idea. And that, the nice part about using Data Studio on top of something like this, or using GeoVis on top of this, is that you may not realize what's going on until you visualize the data. And that's the power of visualization and the power of doing this really quickly. And on top of that, this was 6 gigs of email logs from just one server when it was compressed. So uncompressed, it was probably 60 gigs. We were able to scan that, build the BigQuery and grind through it. And you saw how quickly you can do these queries. So, all right. Any questions, or again, any challenges for Edward?